I don't tell this story casually, but if you've ever believed the outdoors is safe because it's regulated, patrolled, or mapped out, you're wrong. My name is Bo Carter. And about 10 years ago, I made the worst decision of my life. I took my family for camping. It was early fall, cool enough that the nights gave you that crisp bite of autumn. My friend and Mason and his family came along too. We'd known each other since we were 9. Scraped knees, bikes, troublemaking. The kind of friendship that grows cement roots, and at the time, we thought we were absolute geniuses. Let's take the kids to Maquoketa Cave State Park, Mason said. Let them explore a little, build memories. The park is famous for its cave system. Dozens of caves, some large enough to walk through, others with narrow tunnels that connect to deeper chambers. It's one of Iowa's biggest tourist attractions. We grew up around those caves. We knew the trails, the overlooks, the main paths. We knew which caves were guided and which were open to the public. But when you get older, married, and have kids, you stop exploring the world the way you used to. You forget how deep some of those tunnels go. You forget that some places exist without rules. The morning we left, both our wives packed food like we were preparing for famine. Sandwiches, thermoses, fruit, jerky, snacks. The drive was full of nostalgia. Me and Mason swapping dumb childhood memories while the kids argued over who'd get the window seats. We arrived late morning. It felt perfect. Golden leaves. Warm sun. A flat campsite right near a set of smaller, older caves. We set up tents, ate sandwiches. The kids collected sticks to build a fort. Nothing felt wrong. The first day was perfect. We walked a looping trail, pointing out animal tracks and explaining basic rules. Don't wander off. Stay where you can see us. Never go inside the caves alone. The kids nodded, bored but cooperative. That night we sat around a campfire, wine coolers in hand, kids asleep in the tents. Mason poked the embers with a stick. It was simple and nostalgic. One of those rare moments where life feels normal and good. The next morning was the kind of morning that hits you right in the soul. Birds singing. Fog lifting. Me and Mason made breakfast. Bacon and eggs on a tiny propane skillet. Coffee bubbling. Kids still half asleep in their sleeping bags. If you've ever camped, you know there's nothing like that morning smell. Around noon, the kids started begging to go play near one of the small caves nearby. One had a wide entrance, like a yawning mouth, and a narrow tunnel at the back that led deeper into darkness. During our morning walk, we checked it out. Mason held a flashlight inside and said, "Looks like a dead end. No hazards. They'll be fine as long as they stay near the entrance," I agreed. We gave them the rules again. Stay near the entrance. No going into tunnels. If anything feels weird, and come back immediately, they promised. They always do. We weren't 5 minutes into reorganizing. The cooler when it happened. A sound ripped through the woods. A scream. Sharp. Panicked. Pure. Horror. My daughter. Mason, that's them. We sprinted through the trees, branches cutting at our arms. And then, the kids came into view. Running full speed toward us, crying, pale, trembling. Mason grabbed his son, voice frantic. "What happened?" "Where is he?" My daughter sobbed and pointed back toward the cave. He came out of it," another kid chimed in, voice shaking. "A man. He told us he'd give us a tour. He said he knew you, then he chased us." Those words were like ice water down my spine. "He chased you," I repeated. They all nodded. Everything inside me snapped from parental joy to pure, primal fear. I looked at Mason. "We find him." He nodded, jaw clenched. We tore through the trees, fueled by panic and rage. Mason was a runner in high school. Faster, leaner. He reached the cave entrance first. "I see him," Mason yelled. I didn't. I was still pushing through branches. Mason sprinted full speed inside. Everything in my body screamed, "Don't go in. Don't go in." but Mason had already disappeared into the darkness. I reached the entrance and panting, shaking, and yelled, "Mason! Wait, we don't know what's in there!" No answer. Only my heartbeat and the cold whisper of cave air. I pulled out my phone flashlight and stepped inside. Water dripped somewhere deeper in the tunnel. My light hit the rock walls, smooth in some spots, jagged in others. "Mason, where are you?" Silence, then footsteps just drifting. The tunnel turned left and narrowed. My flashlight barely touched the walls. Every sound bounced, my breathing, the drips, the soft crunch of gravel beneath my boots. I felt claustrophobic. Caves have a smell when they get deep. Old, wet stone and slow decay, but there was something else in the air, something sour. Unwashed skin, rot, stagnant sweat. "Mason," I hissed through the dark. That's when a voice whispered back, not Mason, a rasp. "Go back." My entire body went rigid. It came from somewhere ahead or behind or everywhere. Cave acoustics play tricks. They warp sound. I stumbled forward until my light hit movement. Mason's silhouette and sprinting back toward me. His face was white, eyes wide, breathing fast. "We need to go," he said. "Now, what happened?" He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the exit. "Just move, Bo." But I yanked my arm back. "No, if he's in here." Mason's voice cracked, raw with fear. "I had him." That stopped me. He swallowed, voice trembling. I caught up to him. I grabbed his jacket. And when he turned around, he shuddered. It wasn't the kind of face you expect to see underground. We didn't stop moving until we were back in daylight. Only then did Mason speak. I chased him down the narrow tunnel. He was fast, but I caught him. He stared past me like replaying it in his head. He spun around and, "Bo!" He hissed at me. I blinked. "Like an animal?" Mason nodded slowly. His teeth were black, like they were rotting right out of his gums. And his fingernails were yellow, long, curled over the ends like claws. I tried to interrupt, but he held up a hand. I felt his skin when I grabbed him. He was damp, cold, like he hadn't been outside in weeks, maybe months. The worst part? The second I touched him, he hissed and clawed at me, like he was trying to tear my face off. My stomach flipped. He tore his coat out of my grip and bolted down another tunnel. I should have chased him, but I froze. I had known Mason for 30 years. I had never, not once, seen him shaken like that. We reported everything. Park rangers showed up, took statements. The lead ranger shook his head. There are too many tunnels, too many exits. He could be anywhere. I asked the question that still haunts me. Could someone live down there? The ranger answered too quickly. "No, impossible. We packed our tents in less than 10 minutes. The kids weren't just scared. They were traumatized." My wife kept asking, "Did they catch him? Are we safe?" Mason wouldn't even look her way. He kept scanning the tree line. The whole drive home he stared out the window. No expression, just silence. For months Mason stayed obsessed. He emailed park rangers. He called local police. He searched forums for missing persons, cave explorers, feral people rumors. He was trying to make that man make sense. Meanwhile, I had nightmares. The park claims no one lives in those tunnels. But I know what Mason saw. Rotten, teeth, claw-like fingernails, a human that looked just a little too wild. And somewhere, in those dark tunnels, he's still there. It's been years since that camping trip in the Monongahela backcountry. Deep in the West Virginia woods, my name's Imitoska Mason, and my best friend back then was Joey. He was the kind of guy who could make you laugh so hard you'd choke on whatever you were drinking. It all started with a weird stroke of luck. West Virginia in October is like Mother. Nature on steroids. Red maples bleed into bright yellow oaks, fog hanging low in the hollows. But the rain? That's usually biblical. The kind of rain that floods trails and leaves your boots smelling like wet dog marinade for days. But somehow, 3 straight days of clear weather. Hit the forecast, so Joey calls me. Dude, weekend's looking dry. Let's go into the mountains and not be miserable for once. 24 hours later, we were cruising down some busted rural road. We stopped in Elkins for gas, jerky, and cheap beer. The cashier, an old dude in a faded camo cap, stared at our gear and asked, "You heading out into them woods tonight?" Joey, being Joey, said, "Nah, sir. We're hunting Bigfoot. Want to come?" The old man didn't laugh, didn't even smile. "Lots of weird folk disappear up there," he said instead. "You boys don't go wandering off trail now." At the time, I figured it was just some backwoods superstition. Later, we hiked in about 4 miles from the road, deep enough that cell service evaporated. We set up camp right beside an old creek bed, the water trickling over smooth stone like a quiet whisper. Everything felt good. We cracked open beers, speared hot dogs over the fire, and Joey was in rare form. "Bro, what if bears are just woodland security guards and we're trespassing?" I nearly choked laughing. When the beer hit harder, we talked about girls, work, bills, all the crap middle adulthood smacks you with. At one point, Joey leaned back, arms behind his head, firelight dancing across his face. "Man, I wish life could always feel like this. Just trees and laughter." I nodded. He didn't joke that time, he meant it. And for a moment, everything was perfect. The second night, I noticed something odd. Just total dead silence. Anyone who spends time in the woods knows silence in nature ain't peaceful. It's ominous. Joey noticed too. We were standing near the fire, halfway buzzed, when he stopped mid-sentence. "You hear that?" I tried to joke. "Hear what?" "Sasquatch heavy breathing." But he wasn't smiling. Then we heard something, a faint crunch of leaves. Joey pointed his flashlight toward the tree line. Nothing. But I swear, the forest was holding its breath. Eventually, we shook it off as paranoia, crawled into our tents, and fell asleep. We packed up early, hungover and starving. Car was maybe a 90-minute hike back. Joey was loading the cooler when he suddenly froze. "Bro, bathroom emergency," I groaned. "Dude, you couldn't have done that before we packed everything?" He grabbed toilet paper from the trunk and started toward the woods. Nature waits for no man. I rolled my eyes and grabbed a World War II history book I kept in my door pocket. Figured I'd kill a few minutes reading until Joey got back. But Joey had been gone longer than normal. I remember thinking, hurry the hell up. We got food back in town, then, snap! Not twigs, branches. I looked up just as Joey burst out from between the trees, shirt half untucked, face white as chalk. "Start the car." "Start the fucking car now!" There was no pause. I turned the key so fast I nearly snapped it off in the ignition. Joey dove into the passenger seat screaming, "Go! Go!" As I slammed the truck into reverse, something moved behind him. A man exploding from the trees. Imagine someone running at you full speed, and not like a hiker or hunter. This dude was sprinting like he wanted blood. He wore a bandana pulled over the lower half of his face. Army green jacket, boots caked in mud, and in his hand, an axe. A full-sized axe with a long wooden handle, swinging as he ran. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't stumbling, he wasn't lost, he was coming straight for us. I floored the gas. Gravel sprayed. Tires fishtailed. My heart couldn't decide whether to stop or blow out of my chest. Joey kept twisting around, watching through the rear window. He's still running. Holy shit, he's still coming. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror. He was gaining. There was hate in his eyes dead and flat like a shark's. Not a drunk dude messing around. Not a lost hiker. This was a man who wanted to kill somebody. We hit the old gravel access road doing about 50 miles per hour, fishtailing around bends. Every pothole felt like it would rip the wheels off. Only when we finally reached pavement, miles later, Joey speak. He was shaking, staring at nothing. I asked, "Dude, what the hell happened?" It took him several seconds before he answered. I went past the brush to take a squat. Saw something blue. Thought it was a tarp covering gear or whatever. His eyes welled up. It wasn't covering gear. He swallowed hard. It was spread out, perfectly flat, like someone was preparing it. He didn't finish. The guy was just standing there, staring at me. And when we made eye contact, he stepped toward me. Slow, like he was picturing me already lying on that tarp. My stomach dropped. That tarp wasn't for camping, it was for catching blood. We hit the first gas station with reception and called the sheriff's office. A deputy arrived. An hour later, bored, unconcerned, tapping on his notepad like we'd interrupted his nap. He finally said, "Well, you didn't actually see him hurt anybody, correct? Dude was chasing us with an axe." The deputy shrugged. Could have been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That phrase still pisses me off. They checked around the woods, found nothing, and that was that. Life moved on. But what chills me more than anything, the man. He was planning to kill Joey. Years have passed, but that night has claws. That man didn't chase us because Joey ruined his plan. He chased us because Joey could out-identify him. My name is Jace, and what I'm about to tell you is something that has stuck inside my skull for more than 20 years. I'm 43 now. Back then, we were all stupid with youth and full of bad decisions. It was late October of 2003, colder than usual for Tennessee. We piled into Stephen's beat-up Ford Explorer and headed deep into the Marmon-Cherokee National Forest. Near that stretch where Tennessee bleeds into North Carolina, it was me, my best friend, Tyler's guy Steven, and Stephen's girlfriend, Marissa. Tyler was the goofball, all restless energy and dumb jokes. Stephen was the responsible one, the planner, the dad friend. Marissa was the artsy type, Polaroid camera, grunge music, always saying weird poetic things about moss and tree bark. Me, I was just along for the escape. Life back then felt tight. The woods felt like the only place I could breathe. We hiked 2 miles into the forest, following an unmarked trail Stephen swore he found on some message board. It was the kind of trail that felt wrong, like no one wanted us using it. Branches snagged our coats. The air smelled like cold dirt and wet leaves. We finally found a clearing beside a creek, tall rhododendron bushes on both sides like walls. We set up tents and made a fire. The temperatures dropped fast once the sun dipped behind the ridgeline. Tyler nudged me and whispered, "Feels like we're trespassing on something old." We laughed it off. We were still in that mode where we thought horror movies were guidelines, not warnings. Marissa roasted chestnuts on a flat rock while Stephen and I passed around a dented thermos of cheap hot chocolate spiked with peppermint schnapps. It was warm. It was peaceful. It was easy to pretend nothing bad existed in the world. When the fire burned low, we crawled into our tents. Tyler and I in one, Stephen and Marissa in the other. The last thing I remember that night was the soft sound of Marissa laughing and Stephen shushing her. Next evening, we ran out of firewood. We'd burned too much trying to stay warm. Tyler volunteered. "You all stay here. I'll go lumberjack mode." He grabbed a flashlight and wandered off into the tree line. 10 minutes passed, 15, then from far off, "Hey, you guys!" "Jace, Stephen, Marissa, get over here." We grabbed lights and followed the direction of his voice across dry leaves and frost-hardened mud. When we broke through a tangle of mountain laurel, Tyler was standing in a small clearing, eyes wide, pale, breathing hard like he'd run a mile. "Dude, look." At first I didn't know what I was seeing. The earth beneath several large, ancient trees was disturbed, dark overturned dirt, long mounds like on fresh graves. Not one, Not 2, almost 8. 8 long mounds of soil evenly spaced in a half circle around the trees. Then Stephen muttered, "What the hell?" And that's when we noticed the Wime faces car. Each tree had a face carved into the bark, level with our chests. All with closed eyes. Each face was different. Old, young, male, female. Some peaceful, some twisted in agony. Marissa grabbed my sleeve. "They're memorials," she whispered. The flashlight hit one carving dead on. The face on that tree had teeth. Teeth wedged into the wood, human-looking. I swear all 4 of us jumped back at the same time. Tyler whispered, "We need to leave." We ran back to camp, grabbed the one cell phone with any reception, Stephen's old Nokia brick, and hiked down toward a ridge until we got a bar of service. We called for a ranger. She showed up just before dusk. Ranger, Harlanpour's polite, stern face, but her eyes gave her away. When she asked where the site was, we guided her back to the carved trees, and when she saw them, every face, every mound, something in her expression changed. Her mouth tightened. She radioed someone and said, "Multiple disturbed sites. Possible ritualistic significance. Advise law enforcement." Then she turned to us. "You 4 need to pack your camp and move. Tonight, go to a developed campground or leave the forest entirely." Tyler swallowed. "Are we in danger?" She didn't answer. She only said, "But nobody lives out here. But some people don't want to be found." We tore down our tents and threw everything into the Explorer, drove across the forest to a public campsite lit by a couple of street lamps. 2 days later, after we'd driven home, Tyler called the ranger station. A detective eventually contacted us. They dug up every mound, every single one, all of them were empty. No bones, no animal remains, just turned earth. The detective laughed it off, called it a harmless prank or some artsy thing. But there's one detail they refused to address: the trees. Stephen and I visited the ranger station later trying to get closure. A different ranger was on duty. We mentioned the tree carvings. He looked confused. "What carvings?" There weren't carvings. Stephen and I stared at him. We saw them, faces, 8 of them. He held up a clipboard. The report lists disturbed soil only. No carvings. The ranger tensed, very subtly, and said, "Sir, that site is remote. No one goes there. I suggest you stop looking into it. I still think about those graves, about the faces. I wonder if we ever really left that forest."